It's time for Amityville in space!
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tomb of the Terrible. I am not your humble Uncle Necro. He is unavailable this evening. So I am Delphine, and this is Ratatosker, and we are filling in. Tonight we watched Amityville in Space. This is a 2022 movie put out by the Polonia brothers, who have a history of putting together a lot of really bad combinations of movies and riffing on other movies. They're a thing. You either really enjoy them or you just kind of go, really? Did I just watch that? And that's kind of what this one was, I think, for me. But yeah, not quite Amityville versus Galactus, but if it was a video game, I'd play it, you know. And hey, Tom Dog. So going a little bit out of, how's everybody doing? I'm trying to be UncleNecRo and I can't. So I'm not as cool as he is.
But still follow the script. We're good.
I'm feeling quite purple tonight.
I am purple.
You're looking quite purple tonight. I'm just black and white. Stefan's doing good. Good to hear. Okay, so this movie that we went on, UncleNecRo uses his sources for things. I'm going to use different sources because his sources are his things. I'm going to give you a quick, brief description about what Amityville in Space is. This is from the IMDb site for the storyline. Unable to exorcise the ancient evil possessing the cursed house on 112 Ocean Avenue, Father Benna banishes the entire den of terror to the far reaches of outer space after the Amityville exorcism 2017. 7 centuries later, in the distant year 3015, a spaceship on a crucial mission stumbles upon a mind-boggling anomaly, the Amityville Death House 2015, floating next to a rogue black hole. This time, Amityville's horror turns intergalactic, and in the ultimate battle between good and evil, can the crew prevent evil from contaminating the cosmos? That was from Nick Ragnarsson. I am read all over it, everywhere. Everywhere. I'm that awesome. Yeah. So this movie starts, and we do the spoilers, and they just rather than exercising the house, they just shoot it off into space. It's rather entertaining. Well, I couldn't watch most of it. I'm assuming it was rather entertaining. This is also a very non-friendly towards epileptics movie. There's a lot of flashing going on whenever it comes to the horror things. But okay, what do we start with? Who watched this for the very first time? All right. And what were your first thoughts? I guess I have to ask because I have seen Amityville Exorcist, which came before this in the series of movies that these guys made about the same pastor fighting the evil. What did you think about this as your first experience?
Which one? Me?
You. Yes, you. You. Friday.
You.
I went in expecting it to be whatever it was, and I was happy there was a followable plot, and yeah,
Okay.
that was like my biggest. I went in like, is there a plot? Hey, there's a followable plot. We can do this.
All right. Ron, first thoughts on your first watching of the movie.
First thought is that this is a remarkably low budget movie, probably lower than any of the other movies that we have watched. They spent the entirety of their budget on the Adobe After Effects and their green screen backgrounds, and very little else.
I would agree with you there. This is my first watching of this one, and I gotta tell you, okay, I've seen the Amityville, which one was it? Damn it, the Amityville Exorcism in 2017. That is the preceding movie to this, and it is so much better than that movie was. Like their budget had to have gone up. Like, okay, I got some pictures here for you guys. Okay, just not a whole lot, but a few. So this is the android on the space station.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a scene where he gets defeated and he's just sitting on the ground in that outfit, and they're like, oh no, he was torn apart. But he wasn't. He was just in that. This is the Legion in this movie. The haunter with human hands behind the Spirit of Halloween costume, which is so much better than the Legion in the other one, which is like a $5 Walmart costume. I'm just letting you know this is actually so much better than the other one was. We have no idea what in the fuck this thing is. It has nothing. It just shows up every now and then. But it was there, and it still is higher quality than anything in the other one. And then this is what we're talking about, or what Ron was referring to with the green screen. Okay, these are some of the shots out in space. And I particularly liked this one. And it would just hover, and there were some really cool space scenes out there. And like when they're flying through space and they're doing the intro, I was like, this is like a pretty interesting video game intro. Like if this were some sort of like you're trapped on a spaceship and you have to do something, I would be into this. I suck at those kind of games, but I would still want to like watch somebody else play it, or have some fun watching playthroughs. That part was pretty good. Overall, having seen these guys before, this is a better effort than they've put into anything else that I've ever seen of theirs. So let's go through and see what everybody liked. Friday. Oh, shit. I put him on backwards again.
Oops.
Ah! He's doing like the crab crawl thing. Friday.
Flying squirrel.
I love the squirrel. I loved that there was a followable plot. I thought it was funny that for the first time ever, the android cyborg thing had a gut. But yeah, it wasn't the worst space movie I've seen recently. And I love Josh's comment. I think I'd rather watch Dracula 3000 again. I'm like, I think I like this better than Dracula 3000, but yeah.
Okay. Ren, what did you like from this movie?
There is a movie that came out, I think, probably in maybe the mid to late 80s, possibly even early 90s. It's called Dark Star, which is somewhat of an existential movie itself. A group of people on board a ship called Dark Star, which has been out in space forever, and they have more or less lost their will to live. Nothing excites them anymore because every day is the same. And the movie, one of the highlights of the movie is that it has a smart bomb, which is directed by an AI. The bomb, its sole purpose is to explode. And the captain of the Dark Star gets in an argument with the AI for this bomb. Is that really your purpose? So the bomb doesn't explode because it goes through an existential crisis on what it's actually for. The entire tone of this movie, very much similar to the tone of Dark Star, where all of these actors essentially show like no emotion. They've been out in space for a long time, and maybe it's because the acting is dry, or maybe they're not great actors, but it amused me that even in their best efforts to show emotion, that it was not really convincing. Like they could care less what really happens with this house. It's just a curiosity, but okay, we should destroy it, whatever. So in a sense, I will put it outright that this movie sucks. But in the fact that this movie sucks, I actually kind of liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. I was expecting to hate it a lot, and I didn't. I didn't love it by any means, but like I said, I'd watched the other one, and I tortured friends by making them watch it, and I put it on the wheel so we might end up watching it as well. But even though there were the same things that I could point out, like, oh, great fucking costume. Yeah, you put a lot into that. What you'd said before about all the green screening and everything, it looked really cool. Like they finally got a handle on some of their CGI. Now, things like the guy who lost his hand praying with a cloth wrapped bloody hand that was the same arm length as, it should have been like this, but it wasn't. And some of those basic things. And I've seen that guy perform that role before. And he's always that like really intense. I will drive you to hell. Go back where you came from, he got a little bit more emotion this time, but yeah, I think they did a better job with this one. They're finally getting a grasp on what they're doing after making like 40 movies that are all similar mashups or whatever. And they did have that. There was that tone there, like you said, whether it was just bad acting or because like, oh, I just saw a hand running down the room, and then a tentacle monster attacked me. You're just suffering from being out in space for far too long. It's okay. You know, the quick reference to like, don't you have a kid? How old are they? Yeah, 3 years old. Thanks. Haven't seen him. You know, which was weird because it was the mom. So she must have just like given birth and then hopped on a thing to on the space truck. Their whole mission is to go out and destroy black holes with bombs. Destroy black holes
Which
so
I
that
don't
they
think would
can.
technically work depending on the type of bomb that it is.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And that was the worst CGI was like the picture of the bomb. I did like they look at it and they have no idea what a house is because they're from
Right.
the year 3015. And so they're like, what is this thing? There is
Do they not
oxygen
have
in it. There
houses in
cannot be
3015?
oxygen. Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, look at this monitor," as they go by a big screen TV. But then when you go back on their spaceship, like their monitors are kind of bulkier and shittier. So it's like that's actually a lot better looking than what you're communicating through. So I don't think you should be making so much fun of that. But yeah, they just had lots of silly comparisons. They open up the kitchen, they're like, "Oh, this looks like a nutrition station." Really? You don't know what do you live in 3015? You
Right.
speak the same language. They start talking about gods. What is that? Oh, I have a friend who has a tattoo of that. And it is an ancient relic of a long begone religion that was destroyed in the early days of this. And it was just, yeah.
Like they don't have
It
religion
was,
anymore.
yeah. But it was fun seeing them try to figure out like, we do not know what religion is. Do you know what evil is? We think we know what evil is. We aren't exactly sure, but let's go with it, what evil is. We might have to have faith. In what? We do not know how to pray because we are not religious, because we don't have religions. So, okay, let's have the priest. He can pray, right? He knows how to pray. Let's let him pray. Okay. Friday, what did you not like about this movie? I'm trying to be Uncle Necro as best as I can. I just squirrel out more than he does.
Let me put it this way. On the first show I did with him, with just us, I said, I am not Dell. I will never be Dell. You're getting Ginny this time. So let's try to do that. And this time we are getting Dell this time. Instead of me trying to pretend to take your place, you're trying to pretend to take his place. None of us will ever be the other person, but we can try our best to follow the script of what's supposed to happen. As for what I didn't like, I couldn't find anything I generally hated. It was one of those movies that I didn't despise, I didn't hate. It was meh. I think I hate the problem, definitely the dry acting. The whole entire thing was generally meh. I would have loved a movie that was less meh.
Okay.
And then Ron's the
Run.
most analytical of all of us. And I'm like, well, now I feel like an idiot with some of his analytical, the way he looks at it. And oh, the
Are,
sippy cup. Did anybody else notice the sippy cup?
no. What was the sippy cup?
There was literally a kid's sippy cup in the cabinet, so you could tell it was one of their houses. And those
Okay.
kids that were in the picture were real. The sippy cup was from the kids.
Okay. Did you notice the clock
Yes.
and how it kept changing time?
Mhm.
But only between 3 different time settings. I was trying to figure out if that was like, was it a functioning clock? Were they trying to pass on a message to us based on what time the clock said it was?
I
What
don't
was
know.
it?
I just thought it was
Didn't-
interesting. There was a sippy
Usually
cup,
something
so
like
those
that
kids
is a
are real.
continuity error.
Very true.
But it stayed on the same time for long enough that it couldn't have been functioning because it would have, unless it just happened to keep focusing on it on that time setting. But okay, Ron, we are ready for your opinions on what you did not like about the movie.
What I did not like about the movie. One, I wish they had spent more time on the costuming to make them more believable in terms of their relative job positions. But at the same time, by the same token, you could say if they've been on board this ship for so long and they have stopped really caring, they're probably just going to resort to wearing whatever they're comfortable in. They all know what their positions are. Nobody's going to care what they're wearing. So that basically leaves Vox, the robot, which has got to be one of the worst god-awful robot costumes in the history of cinema. I mean, at least in Dark Star, they used those amber popcorn bowls to make space helmets, which look considerably better than looking like a stuffed baked potato inside a microwave. I don't know what that is. They could have at least taken some football gear, some football pads, spray painted them a shiny black, and put some corrugated rubber hose around them and made a more convincing robot outfit than that. So that's one of the main things. The script in and of itself, I don't really have much of a problem with, because I thought that the story was fairly well laid out for what it was. It just wasn't acted all that great. That's aside. I think it's a viable plot, because what do you do with a house full of evil that cannot be exorcised? This is a last resort. Shoot it into space. Just get it off our planet. Get rid of it. And now we have the technology or the means to do so. I get where they're coming from with the idea of the plot. I just think that it could have been executed a little bit better. Needed a little bit more fanfare than what they had at the beginning of the movie to get the house into space, because it's all CGI and green screen and all of that. They just should have spent more money on a little bit more effects to make things believable. Just give me something to work with here to draw me into your movie. Your script and your half-assed story idea is just not enough. So what is really the redeeming quality of this movie? And I keep asking myself that, and I just can't think of one, because you totally could have made this entire movie without connecting it to anything Amityville.
Oh, yes. This is something you will discover is a common thread through most of the films that we will be watching this season, is that they are titled Amityville something, and yet there is basically no reason whatsoever for them to actually have Amityville in the title, other than to get people to watch them because they're like, ooh, did I miss a chapter? And they go, oh, no,
You
no, I
didn't.
did not.
It has
I saw
nothing to
another
do with
horror
the
movie.
other-
Yeah. So my dislike, or were you done? I wasn't sure if was that
Yeah,
the
I could be, yeah. Other than me just bitching about the movie for the next 15 minutes.
okay
Go
for
ahead.
me. All right. I like I said, I like the video game kind of aspect of it, but there was, and I don't think that I'm saying this just as a photosensitive person. There was just a lot of flashing, and that does get annoying, I think, to people other than just me. When it's like, oh, we're going to use this really hard to show that there's a demon in there. Because besides the really poorly dressed demon and the weird thing with the eyeballs, They just have a pair of eyes, but they flash a lot, and they flash through scenes with a lot of flashy stuff. So I don't know if was it too much for you guys, or was it just for me?
I don't suffer those kind of things, so to me it doesn't bother me at all.
Okay. Sometimes I just find them annoying, but it was interesting to me how when you're talking about stuff like, yeah, the house is out there floating, apparently with God's will, it stayed hermetically sealed so that when they could go in, they could walk around without any space helmets or anything. There was just oxygen aplenty, and nobody had to worry about a window opening or a door opening or anything. They were just walking around. It had gravity in it and everything. And I thought they could have done something with that, at least try to make it like, oh, and the fact that they didn't know what a house was really bothered me. Granted, it had been 1,000 years, but when we look back, we're like, oh, look, those are primitive huts. People lived in them. They have a shelter. And this, they were like, what is this anomaly that is floating out here in space? And what is this thing? Oh, I have a friend who has a tattoo of that. But it is ancient religion that is no longer practiced anymore. How does the friend have a tattoo of that? So a couple of just incongruities that, and when Father Brenna wakes up, he's back in the action again, and he's had his hand twisted off at the beginning. There, the evil does get him. They finally came with a fun one for this. He was like, I've never seen this in an exorcism movie before. He's trying to exorcise the house, and he has the cross out, and the thing possesses his hand and starts spinning it around, and the cross is spinning, and it like breaks his wrists and rips it off, and the hand falls on the ground. And then like throughout the rest of the movie, there's this like paper mache hand that's running around chasing people. And there was the one line, it's like it jumps up and attacks somebody, and the Father Brenna is standing there looking at his own hand on somebody else's face, and they're like, thanks for the hand, and it was like, you made a joke in this entire movie. That was rather clever of you. So yeah, I think I'm with you. It was meh. It had some entertaining points, but it really needed to go deeper into those entertaining points to make it something that we would want to see more of. I think if they'd been able to explore a bit more, or funded things slightly different, maybe done a couple of run-throughs with the acting and such, it might have been better. Now, okay, we're at the point. Are we at the point where we do the ads right now, and then we go back to our ratings and whether we recommend it? Are we that far already?
We're 22 minutes in, it looks like. And because there's only the three of us, of course, we're running ahead of schedule. So, I mean, we could wait to run the ads, or we could run them now and then come back and do the rest of it.
Yeah, he usually does the ads and then that part.
28 minutes in, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah. I'll I'm like, I'll run the ads real quick.
Yeah,
all right, we'll be right back. We are running fast.
Greetings and shabebans. We are the Retro Reductopus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all of the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite seems trying to say is that on Retro Redoctopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Your King Podcast Network with new episodes every Technical Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Octopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Jim with Terrible. Our background changed.
Hooray. And there was much rejoicing.
Actually, hold on a second. Where did it go? Where did it go?
There was much rejoicing.
Exactly. Finally, somebody gets it.
Yes, we have it. I just never look for it. Okay, so on to the time. This is a time on the show where we rate it and say if we would suggest it to anybody, not because we have to and put it on things, but because we actually suggested it to somebody on purpose. New stipulation for Jenny.
Forcing my sister with the. When does
That
it not
counts.
count to send shit to my sister?
No, that counts. I'm just saying, like, sometimes you're like, well, I put it on the website because we were watching it. And that doesn't count as suggesting. That's just letting people know that they should watch it if they want to know what we watched. So that's the part that doesn't count. Suggesting it to your
Still
sister
counts
works.
this time
Yes.
because I forced my sister to at least watch it with us.
Okay. That counts.
That's what sisters are for, right?
Hi, Mahana.
It's our
Yes.
adventurer.
Mahana, you've missed out on the you missed out on the majority of the movie because there's only 3 of us reviewing it tonight, but it was Amityville in space. We are to the point now where we are rating and seeing whether we would suggest this to people. So, Freddie, what is your rating, and would you suggest it to people?
I gave it a 5 because it, even though it was a meh, they tried. There was a followable plot, and it was very understandable. And there were parts of it that I generally thought were interesting. I did share it with my sister and be like, you know what? I have to do this. I want you to join me. And other than that, I shared it in the usual places. Like, why doesn't anybody else join me? Please. Well, more people come join us, like Mohana, and Stephen. You must watch movie.
Mahana.
Tom Dog, Stephen, and Mohana. Please watch movie next time and join us on here.
Yes, you're always welcome to join us and say, oh, I watched this. Wow. Let me tell you about it. Ron, how would you rate
Well,
this movie, Ron?
do I have to?
Yes.
Okay. First, I want to say thank you to Tom Dog and Stefan and Mahana for being regular viewers of the show. Uh, Without you guys and all of the other viewers, there would be no point in us doing this other than flapping our gums to each other, which we can easily do offline. So you make it worthwhile. To that end, I would not recommend you watch this movie because you would be wasting your time when you could just as easily be doing something way more entertaining, like watching paint dry or scooping the litter box or cleaning out the bottom of your trash can from when your child puked in it last night when they woke up from a dead sleep and had too much spaghetti and meatballs. So many more things that would be far more entertaining than watching this movie, like sticking little pieces of bamboo under your toenails or using sewing pins to keep your eyelids open so you can watch all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies back to back, one after another, through the witching hour, which I think would be much more enjoyable than having to sit through this movie one more time. And I know that goes against what I said earlier about the fact that I did actually kind of like this movie, even though it really sucks. And to expound upon that a little bit, I think it's because this movie sort of reminds me of the tone of Dark Star and the fact that, like Friday says, it does have a followable plot. The writing is okay. The acting kind of sucks. The effects are terrible. They did not spend a lot of time in developing the stuff that would make this movie look good. They could have thrown a lot more budget at it, but the plot in and of itself is decent, which I think is the only reason that I actually liked it, because I could see myself writing something like this just for shits and giggles. To put that all together into a rating, unfortunately, I cannot give it as high and mighty a grade like Friday did with giving it a 5. But it's still better than that god-awful piece of crap Prey that we watched before. So I'm going to give it a 3 and watch this. If you want a cure for insomnia, then you should watch this movie. If you are a student in a cinematography class or a filmmaking class and you do independent filmmaker videos, 24-hour challenges, then watch this movie because you'll know exactly what not to do to make a good movie. And other than that, don't waste your time. And that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. And Ratatosker and I, well, we've suffered through these brothers before in the same franchise, but we're not going to let us. I would. Long day. Us two. We had to watch this. I'm not going to let my rating be based on they got better, because they should have been better to begin with. Especially after as much time as they've been making movies. So I'm not going to go quite as bad as you, not quite as good. I'm going to go with a 4, and I would only recommend it to people who really like stupid movies. I think it's okay for the B rating crowd, the B movie crowd. It's it's got its little points, and maybe people who are into Halo or something be like, hey, watch this, then make a video game of it. I don't know if that's what Halo's like or not. I can't remember what the name of the one is where they're running around in space. There's a lot of them, but it would be fun to have this be a module for a game, type thing. If you're playing like a futuristic TTRPG or something like that, be like, oh, and suddenly the haunted house shows up out in space. What are you doing? But so yes, I'm giving it a 4 and suggesting it only to a very specific crowd. And now we move on to the part of the show where usually Uncle Necro would be reading us the 5-star reviews on Amazon or on on Amazon Prime. However, there were no 5-star reviews on Amazon Prime. In fact, there basically weren't any reviews on Amazon Prime because nobody cared enough about this movie to actually give it reviews. So I went looking, and instead of stealing from somebody's blog, I found a site called Letterboxd and grabbed some of the reviews from there. This first one gives us a little bit of insight into it. This is by Tony the Terror, and he did give it a 5-star review. Well, it finally happened. They took the Amityville franchise to space. What number is this unofficial sequel? I absolutely lost count at least 100 sequels ago. But what I can tell you is that Amityville Evil does a lot better in space than it did in the hood. The reason I love Mark's movies so much is because sometimes he just amazes me with how creative he gets on a budget of handshakes, hugs, and a cast wrap at Pizza Hut, no sides. Like, really, he uses his own house as the interior of the Amityville house. And even though I've seen that house, the same house in other movies, you stick Titus Himmelberger in a futuristic looking costume and add in some laser beams, and somehow I'm sold on it not being the same house I've seen before, and it's movie magic. In its simplest and purest form, you put Titus's wife in front of a futuristic looking computer data screen with scientific mumbo jumbo scrolling along the side of the screen, and I'm having almost as much fun as I was watching Resident Evil because I just love how genius and dedicated it all is. You're either into Polonia movies or you aren't. And if you aren't, I don't know what the hell to do with you, but I still love you. This movie won't change your feelings, nor will any others in the vast Polonia library. But I really dug this and think it's one of the better ones in recent history. Good times all around. I also love seeing Mark's son listed on the credits because we are going to keep this legacy going, baby.
Wow.
And yeah, that there's one that I'm going to skip because it goes through like a huge amount of scientific facts in the background. So, okay, next 5-star review by Horror Soup Caleb. This is one small step for Amityville, one giant leap for Amityville kind. Right there. That was there. Next one. There actually, I can't see how many stars this one was giving, but it is by Tim the New 208. Or Tim the Newt 08. What the fuck am I doing here? This was definitely 75 minutes of something that has happened. Whether it was good or not, I bet you can imagine. From the director of Cocaine Shark, Sharkula, and Jurassic Prey comes Amityville in Space, where Microsoft Paint played a vital part in the visual effects, rest in peace, and Legion comes to life. My favorite part is the cyborg box. Not because he has a witty dialogue or is in any other way engaging, but because his face is a reflective visor over a helmet. And they didn't even try to hide the film crew in the reflection, just right there, having a good time. And the last 5-star review we will go to is by Dumpster Fireman. And he says, this movie is about Amityville in space. And we shall end there.
Wow, what a synopsis.
So we did learn that it was his family, it was his kid's sippy cup that was in the thing. Apparently he uses his own house in many of his movies. So, and the same crew.
Yeah, I find that the first review was actually pretty decent because you can tell it was written by a person that has an inside with the crew and the actors that are actually in the movie. So they're probably going to have a biased opinion of the movie itself being good or bad. And because they have a personal connection to it, since none of us know anybody in the cast or crew and we don't have a personal connection, we're completely looking at it objectively, it's easier for us to be more critical of it and to make our jokes and say how bad we think that it really is. But as a cinephile, someone that likes movies and watches them on a regular basis and analyzes them, I can be overly critical and say, this is a bad movie, don't waste your time. But at the same time, I can appreciate the effort that it took to make this movie and the fact that it is independent with people that probably aren't very experienced and don't have a lot of money to make movies. And that really goes a long way when you understand that and knowing what effort is involved in trying to make a movie, period, let alone just try to make it good. All the effort and time that goes into just trying to make a movie really gives you an appreciation when you watch something like this, and you can see that it's bad and maybe not deliberately so, although sometimes they are deliberately bad. But when you can see that they're bad, but you can appreciate the effort that goes into them, it really sort of balances out how bad the movie really is because you can appreciate it. And I think that's where I'm at with this movie. While it's not necessarily a great piece of cinematic history, I really don't have any issues overall with this movie because I can appreciate what it took to actually get it made.
I'm going to send you a link to the brothers' log of movies that they've made because it's kind of, and sadly, it was twin brothers who had been doing it together, and one of them died in like 2008, and so then it's just been the one brother carrying on everything. But what was it? I gotta scroll up. The Polonia brothers. Pardon me. But
I am the kind of person that even though I might not necessarily like the movie, I would still watch their catalog of movies just because I understand and I appreciate what they're trying to do. And I'm sure that some of the movies are better than others, but it's not going to really jade my opinion towards saying, no, I'll never watch any of their movies.
Yeah, as the one guy had pointed out, there's such things as, like Cocaine Shark and Sharkula and all these really just weird things that they just like to compile movies and see what in the hell, or set them in a new setting and just name it something that sounds popular that's been coming out around the same time and see where they hit. So
we need another movie like Bad CGI Sharks. That one was good.
They have a number of shark movies, so we might be able to hit upon one of those after we are done with the entire fall season of Amityville Horribles. All right. I'm going to just keep doing
for
that
next summer, we should do all shark-related movies.
We could do that, and I bet we could get PJ Rahal and possibly Ashes to come and watch them with us because he is fans of all things sharks. It's his thing. So we might give that a try. And who knows, maybe I don't know. I didn't check the wheel recently. The wheel? We should check the wheel. Maybe there's Amityville with sharks coming on. I'm not sure. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and throw up the wheel, and we shall see what we are getting next time. And as we don't have a soundbite doing the catch 'em kill 'em because nobody thought to make one, and I don't want to steal from the movie and get in trouble, I'm just going to chant that because that's what I do. I am that person. So here we go, everybody. I'm going to full screen this. Look at all we have to go through. All right. And it's time to spin. Catch 'em, kill 'em, 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 catch 'em, kill 'em. And we have the last Amityville movie, 2023. Woo! And the biggest problem with that is that there are already other movies in the Amityville series that are in production right now. So it's not actually the last Amityville movie ever put out there. But it is one. So Let's see, is this a to be or not to be?
Yes,
I
it
should
is
have
a
looked at.
2B.
All right. So
I think
we
all of
shall
those Amityville movies are on Tubi.
hopefully there are some that I will not put on the list, and you guys can look up the Amityville. Just search Amityville blank, and you'll find tons, hundreds of movies that decided to use Amityville in the title. And there are some that I will not put on there because even though I love to torture people, I am not, I'm just not going to go into it. Yes, it's naughty things. We're going to keep out of those. So, all right, before we close tonight, Jenny, where can we find you?
I'm still at Owlite. I'm still at Fake Horror. And if you actually want to find me, I'm at Friday with the Library in the Blue Box on my author page, Jennifer Elliott.
Right? Run! Where do you want people to find you?
If you want to find Jenny, she's hiding in a closet because that's where she streams from.
Exactly.
If you want to find me, head on over to my author page on Facebook, Ronald W Gillespie Jr. -author. And every now and then I will make updates about my writing process, which admittedly has been slim to none lately, and Slim's out of town. You can also find me on TikTok under @WolfDojo. I am a martial artist by trade. And sometimes, occasionally, I make martial arts related content for TikTok, although same with writing, it's been pretty much slim to none. So you can find me here on Owlite, which is probably where I'm going to be for the foreseeable future, watching all of these really crappy Amityville movies. And if you can't find me, find Jenny and she'll find me for you.
Yep.
All right.
No.
And if you want to find me, look for Carrie, Kari Sanders on Facebook. If you see this as the avatar, that is me, and I am judging you. And you can go ahead and look there, and you'll find a list of all of my things, my author page, links to Owlite stuff, links to splash pages that I do every Tuesday. Pardon me. I've got a squirrel in my throat. But I don't know.
Giggity. Ratatoshka. Oh my.
But yeah, we've got some great shows coming up. Getting ready for the next 2 Sundays in a row. We're going to have Ellen Datlow on the first one in a clutch, and we're going right after that. I'm sorry, I am coughing so hard. I'm trying to get everything settled. We're going to have Bridget Nelson and Jeff Strand, a wonderful couple who write amazing things, are going to be on the next week. So be sure to tune in those. We'll get the thumbnails and events and stuff up for you soon. That's what I'm going to be doing after I get done with this. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Don't watch this movie unless you're really bored and have just no, like nothing, like no, if it's like, well, it's either this or stabbing myself in the eye with a plastic skewer for trying to fit it into a weird cocktail. I mean, that's better than that, but just marginally. So, yeah.
I am honestly going to rewatch Paw Patrol or Number Blocks again instead of redoing this. At least that way, there's going to be some fun entertainment of my kids singing and dancing.
All right. On that note, good night, everybody. We love you.
Happy
Stay safe.
trails to you.